Hey everyone, my name is Eliza and I'm from Pennsylvania. I grew up in an old order Amish community and I left when I was 21. I know a lot of you have questions about what life was really like behind those plain dresses and buggies, and today I want to talk about something nobody really discusses: intimacy and relationships in the Amish world, and what it was like adjusting to the modern world after I left. This isn't going to be some romanticized story or an attack on anyone. These are just my experiences, my truth, and things I wish someone had told me before I walked away from everything I knew. So let's start from the beginning. When you're Amish, you don't get the talk. There's no sit-down conversation about the birds and the bees. Nobody hands you a book or explains what's going to happen on your wedding night. The understanding is that nature will take its course and you'll figure it out. My mom never once talked to me about intimacy. The closest thing I got to any kind of preparation was her telling me that marriage is a sacred duty and that I needed to be obedient to my future husband. That was it. Dating in the Amish community is completely different from what you see in the outside world. It starts around 16, and it's all done in secret at first. A boy might offer you a ride home from a Sunday night singing, and if you say yes, that's how it begins. But here's what surprised me when I left. There's no holding hands, no kissing, no public displays of affection at all. Even after you're engaged, you don't touch each other in public. The Amish believe that love and affection should be completely private. Now, you might have heard about bundling or bed courtship. Yes, it's real, and yes, it happened in my community. After a date, a boy would come to your house, and you'd both lie in bed together, fully clothed. Sometimes there was a board between you, sometimes just a blanket. The idea was that you could talk all night and get to know each other without any physical contact. It was supposed to teach self-discipline. But here's what nobody talks about. It didn't always work that way. A lot of couples did have sex before marriage, even though it was absolutely forbidden. If you got caught or if you got pregnant, you had to confess in front of the entire church before you could get married. The shame of that confession was supposed to be enough punishment. And believe me, standing up in front of hundreds of people admitting what you did, that's something that stays with you forever. I remember my wedding day. I was 20 and I barely knew my husband. We'd been courting for about 8 months, but we'd never really been alone together. We got married on a Tuesday in November after harvest season. No white dress, no rings, no photographs. I wore a new blue dress that I'd made myself, and we stood in front of the church and made our vows. That night, we stayed at his parents' house in a spare bedroom they'd prepared for us. Nobody told me what to expect. I was terrified. My husband wasn't much better. He'd grown up with the same lack of information I had. We fumbled through it, and honestly, it was awkward and uncomfortable and nothing like what I later learned it could be. There was no romance, no tenderness, just the understanding that this was our duty as a married couple. What I didn't understand then was how much I'd been taught to suppress. Amish women are raised to be modest, obedient, and to never draw attention to themselves. Your body isn't really yours. It belongs to God, then to your father, then to your husband. The idea that you might have your own desires or that intimacy could be something you enjoyed, not just endured, that was never even suggested. After I left, everything changed. The first time a guy in the English world, that's what we call non-Amish people, the first time an English guy tried to hold my hand on a date, I literally pulled away. I didn't know what to do. I'd been taught my whole life that any physical contact before marriage was sinful. Even though I'd left the church, those beliefs were still hardwired into me. Learning to date in the modern world was like learning a completely different language. People expected you to hug, to kiss, to show affection. They talked openly about sex and attraction. Women had opinions about what they wanted. All of this was completely foreign to me. I felt like I was constantly doing everything wrong. One of the hardest things was learning that I was allowed to say no. In the Amish world, especially as a woman, you don't really have that option once you're married. Your husband has certain rights and you have certain duties. The idea of consent as something ongoing, something you could give or withdraw, that was revolutionary to me. It took me years to understand that my body was actually mine and that I had the right to make decisions about it. I also had to unlearn a lot of shame. I'd been taught that thinking about sex was sinful, that enjoying it was wrong, that your body was something to be hidden and never celebrated. When I started therapy, my therapist told me that many ex-Amish women struggle with intimacy because of how deeply this shame is ingrained in us. We're taught from childhood that our bodies are dangerous, that they can lead men astray, and that we need to cover up and suppress any kind of sexuality. The other thing that shocked me about the modern world was how much choice people had. In the Amish community, you marry young, usually between 20 and 22. You marry someone from your community who shares your faith. Divorce isn't an option. You stay together no matter what, even if you're miserable, even if there's abuse. When I discovered that people in the English world dated multiple people, that they lived together before marriage, that they could end relationships that weren't working, it blew my mind. But here's what I want you to understand. Even though I struggled, even though it was hard, learning about healthy relationships and real intimacy was one of the most healing parts of leaving. I learned that communication matters, that both people's needs are important, that sex can be about connection and not just obligation. I learned that I'm allowed to have boundaries and that respecting those boundaries is what real love looks like. I'm not going to lie and say that leaving was easy or that I don't sometimes miss the simplicity of my old life. I miss my family every single day. Most of them won't speak to me because I left before I was baptized. If I'd been baptized and then left, I would have been officially shunned, which is even worse. But I don't regret leaving. I couldn't stay in a world where I had to make myself smaller, where I couldn't ask questions, where intimacy was something to be afraid of instead of something beautiful. If you're ex-Amish or if you're thinking about leaving, I want you to know that it's okay to feel confused. It's okay to need time to figure out who you are and what you want. It's okay to go to therapy and work through all the beliefs that were planted in you before you could even think for yourself. You're not broken, you're just learning. And if you're someone who's never been Amish, but you're curious about this world, I hope this gave you a glimpse into what it's really like. The Amish aren't just quaint people in buggies. They're real people with real struggles, living under rules that control every part of their lives, including the most intimate parts. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. I try to answer as many as I can, and if this video helped you in any way, please share it. There are a lot of ex-Amish people out there who feel alone, and I want them to know they're not. My name is Eliza, and this is my truth.